Hello, welcome back to Animated Literacy. This is part 8 of the overview and research for the program. In part 7, we covered the consonant characters, the gestures, and the sounds that are needed for phonological awareness. In this portion, we are going to be expanding on that by looking at a variety of songs and activities that you can use to expand on phonological awareness. So before we do that, I want to just very briefly talk for a moment about the role that speech-language pathology is now playing in literacy instruction. Catherine Butler was for many years a pioneer in the field of speech-language pathology, and she was the editor of Topics in Language Disorders. In November of 1999, she wrote this: "We have just begun to realize that children who experience difficulty in listening and speaking in the preschool years may be prone to reading, writing, and spelling disabilities later in their school lives." So up until this point, speech-language pathologists had seen their role as primarily in developing children's ability to speak so that they could be understood. So if you had children whose speech was unintelligible, they would work with them on recognizing sounds, producing sounds, and blending sounds in a way that they could be understood. So they were basically working with children at the earlier levels, and then once the child was intelligible, they were passing them on, and the reading specialist would take over in training them how to read and write. Well, they decided that to take a look to see how the kids that they had worked with in the early grades were now working in the later grades. And what they discovered was that many of the children who had had speech-language problems in the early years were re-experiencing those same problems in the later grades when they were learning to read and write. This is a book, Beyond Baby Talk, that talks about that very thing. And they tell us in this book that reading and writing have the same parts as listening and speaking. And if you have trouble listening and speaking, there's a good chance you're going to have a difficult time in reading and writing. Ken Oppel is one of the co-authors of that book. And he called me back in 2002, and he asked if he could recommend animated literacy to ASHA. And ASHA had been asked by the U.S. Department of Education to recommend model early literacy programs that could be used for getting children off on the right foot towards literacy. So he recommended my program to ASHA. They reviewed many different programs and then selected a few to recommend to the federal government. And on May 28th, 2002, in the magazine for ASHA, the ASHA Leader, they announced that animated literacy was one of the programs that they were recommending to the federal government as an early literacy model of instruction. So we were thrilled that took place. We're going to be now taking a look at how children can begin to differentiate between vowels and consonants. And this is a real valuable tool when you're developing phonological awareness. So I use the old song, "The Farmer in the Dell," to teach kids how to tell the difference between a vowel and a consonant. And this is a very well-known song that's on the internet. It's in bookstores and music stores, so you can find it quite easily. And it sings like this: "The farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell, hi-ho the dairy-o, the farmer in the dell. Farmer takes a wife, the farmer takes a wife, hi-ho the dairy-o, the farmer takes a wife." And then as it continues, the wife takes a child, the child takes a nurse, the nurse takes a dog, the dog takes a cat, the cat takes a rat, the rat takes the cheese, and then finally at the end, the cheese stands alone, the cheese stands alone, hi-ho the dairy-o, the cheese stands alone. So I simply tell children after doing this song that the cheese is like the vowels, because they're used to taking their vowel sounds in "Are You Sleeping, Brother John?" And if it's a vowel, they sing it 3 times for the bell tones. So it could be O, 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 or E, 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 or Oo, 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 or A, A, A. But if it's a consonant sound, it cannot stand alone. It has to have a partner. So for consonants, you have to take the D or the D sound away from ding, dong, ding, and what's left is ing and ong, and then you have to blend with ing and ong. So ing and ong become the partner, like the farmer partner is the wife, and the wife's partner is the child, and so on. So now when we're singing songs for "Are You Sleeping, Brother John?", if we come to a verse for a vowel, we isolate the vowel and sing it 3 times. So Ike's verse would sing like this: Are you riding? Are you riding, Brother Ike? Brother Ike. Ike's bells are saying, Ike's bells are saying, I. And we would do the same thing for Irving because he's a vowel. So Irving's turning his scooter, so we have, are you turning, Brother Irving, whirling Irving. Irving's cats are saying, So it doesn't matter if it's a cat or it's a bell or it's a dinosaur or whatever it is. Because the vowels stand alone, you always just sing the vowel sound 3 times to replace the bells or cats or whatever they happen to be in the last line. But when we move to producing vowel or consonant sounds, then the consonants will need a partner. So if we're singing Baby Barnaby's verse, it would sing like this. Are you bowing, Baby Barnaby, Baby Barnaby? Barnaby's bells are saying, bing bong bing, bing bong bing. So we had to take away the duh, replace it with buh, and then give him a partner of ing and ong. Now if we have Jenny Jaguar and we change the bell to a pup, her verse sings like this. Are you juggling, Jenny Jaguar, Jenny Jaguar? Jenny's pups are saying, juff, 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 juff. So we drop the W from woof, woof, replace it with J, and her pups are going juff, juff, juff. Now, Marion Diamond talks about that the brain is only as smart as it needs to be. So if we want children to grow big, bright brains, we have to continually place them into environments that are challenging for them to grow into. So when you first start this, the children may simply be copying what you're doing and echoing back. Then gradually they pick up the meaning of what's taking place and they start to be able to do it on their own. And because this simply mirrors that babble stage of development, you can predict that kids are going to pick it up pretty quickly. I've had sometimes teachers say to me, that's hard. And I go, is it hard for you or is it hard for your children? They go, oh no, it's easy for my kids. It's hard for me. Well, it's been a long time since you've babbled. It hasn't been quite so long since your children have babbled. So now we can start to put 2 sounds together. So now instead of just singing are you tickling or are you riding, we can put those 2 together and sing are you tickling and riding, are you tickling and riding, Timmy and Rosie, both their bells are saying, tring trong, tring, tring trong, tring. Now, my kids loved being challenged, and they knew reliably that I was going to consistently come in with information that was a bit too difficult for them, but that I would scaffold instructions so that they would be able to rise to that level. It's thrilling when you can do something hard. It's not very exciting when you master something easy. So there's lots of intrinsic motivation in making things difficult, but then scaffolding so that children can rise to that level of difficulty. So we can put together 2-letter combinations to form blends and raise the bar so that it's a bit more challenging. And then when that starts to become easy, we can start to put 3-letter blends together. So now we might have our Sadie Seal, Polly Panda, and Rosie Raccoon. So it would sound like this. Are you surfing, painting, and riding? Are you surfing, painting, and riding? Sadie, Polly, and Rosie. Sadie, Polly, and Rosie. All their clocks are saying, sprick, sprock, sprick, sprick, sprock, sprick. So now we're putting 3 together. Now when you're doing this activity, it's important that you only put sounds together in ways that they actually appear in real words. So there are only a certain number of sounds that occur in a consonant blend. So here's a list of all of the possible consonant blends you can use. So you might want to make a chart of that and display it so that when you're singing the song, you can simply look at the chart and see which sounds you can put together in order to create either 2-letter consonant blends or 3-letter consonant blends, so you can keep your activities challenging. Now we're going to move to an activity that is a lot of fun to do with vowel sounds. When we first introduced vowel sounds in Are You Sleeping, Brother John, we isolated those vowels. Now we're going to go to a song where we can start to blend with those vowel sounds. So this is a song you probably already are familiar with, and our recording of the song sounds like this.
Apples and bananas, I like to.
Let me try that again. Here we go. Once more.
I like to
Eat apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to at apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to at apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas. So now if you sing all the way through that song, it'll take just over 2 minutes to be able to gesture and reinforce all of the vowel sounds. Now we want to start to play with it so we can start to change the vowel sounds. So instead of apples and bananas, maybe we start to use lemons and potatoes. So you can take your various characters and put your vowel characters up and see how we could sing that. So if we have Irving, who turns his scooter, and we've got Joy, who oils her toy Tin Man, it would end up singing like this. Joy likes to oit, lermers and perturters. Oh, I said that wrong. Let's do that again. If we're doing our oi sound, we start with Joy, and by replacing the I with the name of the character, then the children know what sound we're going to be using. So we're going to use the oi sound all the way through. Joy likes to oit, loimoins and poi toy toys. Joy likes to oit, loimoins and poi toy toys. Now, if we were doing that with Irving, that I kind of mixed it up with there for a moment, and it's okay to mix things up. I think that many times we try to make things too perfect in front of our students, and then they think that you can't make a mistake. So you get to see me make a lot of mistakes. My kids get to see me make a lot of mistakes and not get upset over them, but rather just go back and change it. So I think modeling that is really important. So let's try it now, and I'll see if I can do it without mistakes. So here's Irving, and he's turning his scooter. So if we have our lemons and we have our potatoes, his verse would sound like this. Irving likes to ert, lermers and perturters. Irving likes to ert, lermers and perturters. Okay. Now it's also fun to put the names of the children in the classroom into the song. And if you have several kids who begin with vowels, you can start with those. For many years, I only sang it with words that began with vowel sounds. Then it dawned on me, all of our words have vowels. And I want my kids to be really good at finding those medial vowels, because that's something a good reader can do and a poor reader cannot. So I started singing it with the kids in my classroom, and here we could use limes and onions. Okay, so if I sing Carla likes to, and her vowel sound is art, so they sing the first sound in the child's name. Carla likes to art, larms and, what would onions be? Arn yarns, okay? Larms and arn yarns. Mackenzie likes to. Now with Mackenzie's name, the first vowel is spelled with an A, but she doesn't say the sound of A, she makes the sound of So you have to remember this is sounds, not letters. So it would be Mackenzie likes to lums and onions. Mackenzie likes to lums and onions. Okay? Now we can start to speed it up. So this is a really fun activity that helps children to pick up those vowel combinations very quickly and start to use them in the song. So here I'm simply going to take a toy food and put a character next to the toy food, and they have to tell me what that food would be if this character eats it. So if Woody Woodchuck eats the egg, it's an oog. And I always like to start with egg because it's a single syllable word and the vowel is in the initial position. But if Lulu Moose eats it, it's an oog for wiggling your loose tooth. If Grouchy Owl eats it, it's an aug for bumping your head. And if Annie eats it, it's an ag for adding. So then we can move on to two-syllable words. So let's see what lemon would be. If Annie eats the lemon, it's a la man. So say that after me, la man. If Uncle Upton eats it, it's a la mun. If Edgar Elf eats it, it's a le men. Now let's try it with a three-syllable word. So let's go back to potato for that. If Edgar eats the potato, it's a pe, te, te. And we need to remember to get our kids gesturing each time they say that sound. If Ichabod eats it, it's a p, ti, ti. But if Ollie Ostrich eats it, it's a pa, ta, ta. Watermelon is a lot of fun to do because here we have 4 vowel sounds. So when we go to eating a watermelon, well, let's see, I didn't find the watermelon, so let's do avocado instead. Avocado also has 4 sounds. So if Ollie Ostrich eats the avocado, it's an avocada. Say that after me. Avocada, and then speed it up. Avocada. If Abe eats it, it's an avacade. And if Eve eats it, it's an evkd. So these are activities that you can do for a brief period of time, but do them often. So every day we're going to have short periods of time where we practice these sounds. Oh, here's my watermelon. So let's try watermelon. If Old Joe Crow eats it, row your boat, it's a wo-to-mo-lone. If Arnie eats it, it's a war-tar-mar-larn. Okay, I'm going to give you some more activities now that we can do with our consonant characters. So I mentioned earlier that creativity comes from repetition. And we know that kids have to have a lot of repetition to develop their phonological awareness. That also makes it easier to teach because you don't have to learn a ton of things to teach. You just have to keep coming back and repeating and keeping them fresh by substituting different words into the activity. So here's one that originally I only taught as a way that children could start to pick up some names of animals and the sounds they make in both English and in Spanish. So our recording of the little puppy sounds like this.
Little puppy, he says woof, woof, woof. Mi perrito dice guac, guac, guac.
So on the recording, it starts out with little puppy. He says woof, woof, woof. So we're singing it in English. Then we turn it around and sing it in Spanish. Mi perrito dice guac, guac, guac. Well, after several years of this song, I realized that it would be a great song for playing with our animal sounds. So now we can turn around and sing it this way. Little puppy, he says woof, woof, woof. Timmy's puppy, he says toof, toof, toof. So now, just like we were doing in Forever Jacques, we're deleting the onset, replacing it, and blending it back together again, and you can keep going from animal to animal. So the next one we have here is little kitten, she says meow, meow, meow. Kimmy's kitten, she says, what would Kimmy's kitten say? Well, she blows her kisses and goes, k. So here kitten would go kyow, kyow, kyow. Little chickie, he says peep, peep, peep. Daisy's chickie, he says deep, deep, deep. So now we've used Daisy Dragon's d sound in front. This turned out to be a favorite of some upper grade kids, 5th graders, that were struggling with phonological awareness, and now they're picking it up from this song. One of them came in one day and it kind of had his thumbs in his pockets and looking really tough. And he said, "You know what I did with that song? I took it home and taught it to my little brother and sister." So when you teach this way, you're not only teaching the children who are in your classroom, or if you're doing this at home, you're not just teaching the child you're doing it with, but older or younger brother or sisters probably looking over the shoulders and picking up at the same time, because it's very playful, much like the jump rope rhymes and things of old. So this song sounds like this on our recording.
My mama gave me pennies to go and eat at Denny's, but I did not eat at Denny's. Instead, I bought some bubble gum, blowing big bubbles with bubble gum.
So now you bubble gum, blowing big bubbles with bubble gum,
Blowing big
bubbles with bubble gum.
My mama gave me a nickel so that I would not tickle, and so I did not tickle. Instead, I bought some bubble gum tea.
Tick tubbles with double tum.
Doing tick doubles with double tum. Doing tick doubles with double tum. Doing tick doubles with double tum.
So this one, after we've enjoyed the song along with the tape and sung it without the tape, we can just take the chorus of blowing big bubbles with bubble gum, and we can start to manipulate our sounds as quickly as we can. And every time I switch to a new sound or a new card, the children need to change it to that character's sound. So we've got joing jig jubbles with jubble jum, joing jig jubbles with jubble jum, bowing big bubbles with bubble bum, towing tig tubbles with tubble tum. Now at first you can go slowly, sing an entire verse through with that, then start changing it in the middle, then start changing it after each line, then start changing it in the midpoint, so that you get faster and faster. And now it starts to sound like this: towing tig rubbles with bubble sum, joing jig jubbles with bubble tum, rowing rig pubbles with subble jum, bowing big tubbles with tubble trum. You can start putting letters together with it. So our objective is to get kids faster and faster and more automatic at first recognizing characters and substituting their sounds. Then when we remove the characters and only show letters, then they're looking at the letter, associating it with the sound, and blending sounds together, which is exactly what they need to do in order to develop fluency in word recognition and reading. Next, we have another bubblegum song that sounds like this.
I put the penny in the gum slot.
See
the gum go round. I get the gum and you get the wrapper, 'cause I put the penny in the gum slot.
With M.
I put the penny in the mum mot. Me the mum mound. My met the bum and moo met the wrapper, 'cause my put the penny in the mum mot.
With D.
Die.
So this keeps going along. Now, just like we did in the last song, we have a new context to practice our sounds in. So once the children are picking this up, and again, they start out by simply copying the teacher, then gradually the teacher keeps dropping out as the children take over. So it's very much this kind of scaffolding that Vygotsky talked about. So here we have tie tut the tenny in the tum tot, tea the tum to town, tie tut the tea tut the tapper, 'cause tie tut the tenny in the tum tot. Then you start changing it midstream. So now we've got rye rit the renny in the rum rot, pee the pum po pound, sigh sut the sum, and sue sut the sapper, 'cause jai jut the jenny in the bum bot. Then you go faster and faster. So now we could have buy but the tenny in the rum rot, see the sum so down, buy but the bum, and toot at the tapper, 'cause rye at the penny in the sum jot. So you want to get your kids faster and faster and faster, and they have a lot of fun doing that. Here's another one. This one is an old Alabama folk song that when Jim and Teresa recorded it, they turned it into a kind of a Beach Boys rock and roll song, and it sounds like this. Now let's do a finger play.
This is such a silly song. It doesn't mean a thing. Never mind the silly words. Just pick a sound and sing. M.
With your magic mop. E, me, may, I, mini. So this follows the same progression as we did with our other songs. So now we can just pull that phonological awareness piece out and sing it this way. J, A, J, J, E, Jeet, J, I, Ginny, Jai, Bay, oh boy, Binny, bye, bo, bay, you bow, tinny, tie, toe, tow, wow. Now if we switch a little faster, tay, a, tay, ray, a, ray, pay, I, pinny, pie, say, oh, soy, Ginny, jai, joe, bay, you bow, tinny, tie, toe, row, row. So that's another fun one to play with. Now, this is one that I hadn't thought of doing until very recently, that you can change Old MacDonald into a phonological awareness piece by simply doing it this way. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm there was a pig, E-I-E-I-O. So after you've sang it in its traditional way, you can start putting in the names of characters, changing the animals, and then they have to change the animal sounds. So here's a verse for Hippy Hippo that would end up sounding like this. Hippy Hippo had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm there was a cow, E-I-E-I-O. Now what we need to do is take hippie sound and change the moo in cow to hippie. So if you take away the k in the in moo and you replace it with the h in hippie, you have who. So it would be with a who here and a who there. Here a who, there a who, everywhere a who. Hippy Hippo had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. So there's no end to the kind of playfulness that you can have. So when somebody tells you that phonological awareness and teaching phonics is boring, it's because of the way that they're doing it. Kids love to make noises, love to make up animal sounds, and that's what we're doing here to develop an important skill for reading and writing. So thank you for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next session.